My friend Farah Yurdozu is Turkey's first female UFO researcher and a best-selling author there. She is a writer, lecturer, and author of several best-selling books in her native land. Fluent in Turkish, English, and Spanish, her work and she are known on several continents as an authority on the subject at hand, as well as the paranormal and the metaphysical. She now lives in the New York City area and has continued her work here and has spoken on major UFO conferences all over the country. Farah is a columnist for UFO Magazine and a journalist producer for Jerry Pippin Internet Radio. Though her work reflects a passion for many aspects of the paranormal, her main area of study is UFO-related abductions and close encounters. Farah's latest book, Confessions of a Turkish Ufologist, documents her native land's 5,000-year UFO history, as well as her own family's 3-generation history of ET contact. The title of her presentation is ET Presence and Reptilian Signs from Ancient Turkey to Modern New York City. From the great city of Istanbul via the great city of New York, please welcome Farah Yurdozu.
Hello, thank you very much. Hi, thank you very much for coming today. Yes, my name is Farah Yurdozu originally. I am from Istanbul, Turkey. I was born in Istanbul. Currently, I'm living and working in New York City area. Yes, I am a columnist for monthly UFO magazine and a program producer for Jerry Pippin Radio Show. Yeah, okay. And this is my 5th book, but this is my first book in English language, Confessions of a Turkish Ufologist. It is based on my family's 3 generations of close encounters, contact, and my own studies, my own work in paranormal and UFO field. Yeah, okay. Now, today in this presentation, we are going to see some recent UFO cases from Turkey, from last year and from last month. And then we are going to talk about the ancient ufology on Turkish land. Turkey is a very ancient country. We always believed that our history goes back to 6,000 years ago, but we were wrong. After the latest excavations, after the latest archaeological findings, we found out that our history goes back to 12,000 years ago. So in all this history, of course, we have lots of communication with extraterrestrial beings, paranormal cases, sky gods. We are going to talk about them. And then we will see how ancient gods or semi-gods shaped our society, our culture, our belief system. And it didn't stay only on Turkish land. It affected the Europe, and then it came to United States, especially to New York City. Also, we will see how the extraterrestrial reptilian culture is been affecting New York City. Yes, 3 generations of contact. This happened in my family. And as far as we know, the first contact started in late 1890s, in 19th century. This gentleman is my great-grandfather, my grandmother's father. He was a university teacher at Istanbul University. He was teaching French and mathematics. He was a scientist, and he was an author. So he had nothing to do with paranormal cases, spirits, or anything else. But one night, when he was alone at home, he was visited by 2 reptilian beings. Of course, in those years, nobody knew about the extraterrestrials or reptilians or Nordics. He was at home by himself, and he went to bed. After a while, the door opened. 2 beings came inside. They were walking on their 2 feet, but they looked like half human, half animal. They were extremely tall male beings. Their body was covered partly leather, a very thick, shiny leather, and partly hair. They didn't wear any clothes, and their eyes were very scary because they had reptilian eyes. Yes. So they were tall, they were big, strange creatures. They had snake eyes. And meanwhile, there was a missing time involved, but we are not sure if he was abducted or not. We are not sure if he was taken to some place or not. This happened. Two beings stayed in the room. One of them stayed at the foot part of the bed. The other one got to the headboard of the bed. And between them, a strange communication started. They were also trying to communicate with my great-grandfather telepathically. Meanwhile, a very strong energy, a vibration, started to fill the room. And the energy was so strong that the heavy iron bed started to shake. It was an old-fashioned Victorian iron bed. It wasn't a very light IKEA. So, this was an extremely scary incident for my great-grandfather. He was very scared and he didn't want this visitation to go on. He started to pray in order to send them away. Praying, beings started to leave the room slowly. They weren't happy because the name of the God in any religion, any language, for some reason, disturbed them. But something happened. Before they went away, they stopped at the door. They turned him back and they said him something. From you to 3 generations. In that moment, he didn't understand the meaning of these words. But just after this incident, my grandfather's 5 children, one of them is my grandmother, suddenly they developed very advanced psychic abilities. They became psychics. And we believe that from you to 3 generations, they were trying to give something, and it was the psychic ability. My grandmother, her sisters, and her brothers became psychics first, and then they became very good paranormal and spiritual investigators. This picture was taken many years after. Probably it is 1935. 35. There are many psychics in this picture in the family. But again, in those years, nobody knew about the UFOs, reptilians, Nordics, or extraterrestrials. They believed that those beings were demonic beings. Because in old years, if a being, a paranormal visitor, had nice looking, it was an angel. Now we call them Nordics, or we call them humanoids. Or if they had a scary aspect, scary looking, they were called demons, jinns. Now we call them sometimes grays, depending on your preference, sometimes reptilians. So that's why I got involved in this field, because I was born in a family which was in contact for 3 generations. They were the first generation, second generation of psychics. One of them was my aunt. She was born in 1935. She was a very good psychic too. After that, I was born. I am from the 3rd generation, and since very young age, I had my own paranormal and UFO-related experiences. Now, I want to talk about a little bit the latest recent UFO sightings and incidents in Turkey. First, we are going to talk about last summer. There is one thing in Turkey. Whenever in our country there is an important political change which affects the whole country, socially, culturally, economically, UFO sightings increase, as if UFOs are watching over us. The other thing again, whenever there is a natural disaster such as an earthquake, suddenly we report more UFO sightings. In 1999, we had the biggest earthquake in Turkey. 30,000 people died in 4 seconds. And before and after the earthquake, again, there were lots of UFO sightings. What happened last year? Last year, 2007, in summer months, we had presidential elections. A new president was elected. This caused lots of changes in the country. Also, we were dealing with the global warming. We were under the effects of global warming. And we didn't have any rain. We had problems of running water. Meanwhile, we were dealing with these things. UFOs started to show themselves. 3 cities. Istanbul is on the west, where I was born. And I can consider that, I can compare Istanbul with New York City in many ways. Ankara, in the circle, it is our capital city, just like Washington, D.C. And Antalya, it was one of the other cities where there were lots of UFO sightings. It's a kind of Miami. It is a Mediterranean summer city. Now, the first cases came from Ankara, which is our capital city. It is the center of the government. And UFOs were hovering over Mustafa Kemal Atatürk's mausoleum. Mustafa Kemal Atatürk means a lot for Turkish nation. He was our first president and the founder of the secular Turkish Republic after the Ottoman Empire. While we were having problems with the new president's elections, UFOs focused over Atatürk's mausoleum as if they were trying to say, don't worry, life is not going to change in Turkey. You are not going to lose the secular government. 2 cases from May 15th and June 24th. Many people who lives in the area, they observed the objects and they reported them to meteorology and other scientific places. The other case was from Antalya, the southern city, and this gentleman first managed to observe 23 objects in one night, and it was May 21st. But after that, on June 11th, he managed to videotape 7 objects in one night. Yes, and Turkish press was always and is always very supportive, very open-minded with UFO cases. The pictures and the news, it was on the newspapers, mainstream newspapers, front pages, and here it says 7 UFOs were taped in one night during 25 minutes. Then, July 28th, another UFO was videotaped in Istanbul from my city. And this calendar shows the number of the UFO reports only in July 2007. Of course, these were the reported ones. Who knows the others? And this year, May 24th, another case from where you see the dark circle. A lawyer was driving to his home in the evening hours, and he suddenly saw the object, and he managed to take only one shot or picture with his cell phone. This is a cell phone picture, cell phone camera picture. It doesn't say a lot. He tried to take another picture, but it was too late because the object went away with a high speed. On the same day, on another part of Turkey, another dark circle, somebody else was going to a shopping mall, and by the parking lot, he saw another object, and he took another picture with his cell phone. Again, it is not the best picture, it is not the clearest picture, but why this happened on the same day in different places. Later, June 8, 2008, Adana, a southern city, dark circle, somebody else videotaped another object. This is a gentleman who videotaped the object in Adana. In fact, he was watching a football game on his television. He had no idea what was happening outside. His neighbors saw 7 objects first, and they called him. They said, take your video camera and come outside. And he took his video camera, he went outside, he saw the round-shaped object, and he climbed on the roof of his house, and he videotaped the UFO. And according to his explanation, the object was doing different movements. It was going to up and down, right and left, and it was following a zigzag pattern. Also, of course, it was very fast. The colors were changing. The colors of the object were changing to orange, red, green, and dark yellow. Again, from the same city, Adana, June 26, 2008. This young man is a television cameraman. Again, while he was watching television, he wanted to smoke a cigarette. He went outside, he suddenly saw the object, and during 30 minutes, he videotaped the object. And according to his explanation, object was doing different movements, up and down, right and left, zigzag. But not only the colors, also the shape, the form of this object was changing. It was changing from the triangular to the square. So why this happened? Who knows? One case is very important. This happened last year, 2007, October 16th, Urfa. As you can see, the city is very close to Syrian border. Now, before and after this UFO case, there were some terrorist attacks in the area, and 20 people were killed in the terrorist attacks. Some of them were military personnel, some of them were civilians and young children. So, for some reason, during this terrorism activity, UFOs were coming to the same region. The object was seen in Urfa. It is a very important city for many reasons. Yes. This happened, and the next day, a very bad terrorist attack killed 20 people in the same area. So, according to some people, who knows, extraterrestrial visitation, extraterrestrial beings or races are trying to control the real-life political, military activity over the areas. Yes, now let's see the still pictures of the same object. Yeah. Urfa is a very ancient city where the UFO was videotaped. It was called Edessa in history, and it is important religiously and historically. It was called Edessa, and we are going to talk about Harran. Is a very ancient city which is in the city borders. And it was known as a place where Adam and Eve arrived after they left the Garden of Eden. Also, according to the book of Genesis, Abraham lived in Harran too. Harran was one of the most pagan cities in the region. Up to 1970s, Harran was the center of the Black Snake cult, Yazidis who worship Satan. Now, we are going to talk about a very interesting cult which started thousands of years ago in Harran, in Urfa region. Pazuzu is known as the first demonic being on earth in the history. So in that region, in Harran area, there was a very strong Pazuzu cult. Pazuzu was a god because it had 4 giant wings, as you can see, and it was flying, it was coming from the sky. But it was, or he was, also related with the underground world. So it was living in the underground, was coming from the sky. It was a hybrid being. It was half human, half animal. It is depicted with an animal face claw-like hands, and bird feet. Also, even though it was a god, it wasn't a very loving one because it was bringing negativity, disease, famine, and droughts. It was the first prototype of the devil, of the Satan. People worshipped him, but they were also scared. It wasn't a loving, protecting God model. Now, Pazuzu, much later, in our time, in 20th century, became very popular and very famous. First with a book, then with a novel. This happened. William Peter Blatty wrote a novel, The Exorcist, in 1970s. And later, the movie Exorcist was made based on the book. It is about the demon, or a demon, a satanic spirit, possesses first a young girl, Linda Blair, and then it causes lots of accidents, disease, and tragedies. So, in the book and the movie, Pazuzu was a demonic being which caused all these things. And if you get the book, if you get the movie, you can see everything starts in a Pazuzu cult center in Mesopotamia, in Iraq, during an excavation. When they dig out the Pazuzu statues, the evil force is released. So, this is Pazuzu, we know him now. Let's take a look to another being which we know him very well too. This is the Mothman. Mothman was started to seen in 1966, in 1967 in West Virginia, Point Pleasant. So, many people had close encounters with the Mothman, short close encounters. They described it with a giant being, half man, half bird, with giant wings just like Pazuzu, claw-like hands, and bird feet, as if Pazuzu was reincarnated in Mothman thousands of years ago. And as we know, John Keel, paranormal and UFO researcher John Keel, wrote a book about this. And based on the book, a movie was made a couple of years ago. So, Mothman, again, became very famous, very popular, first with a book, then with a movie. Giant wings, half human, half animal beings, just like the beings who visited my great-grandfather. This one is a very modern type reptilian being that many encounters, many abductees describe them like this. In fact, reptilians have different kinds. But this one, giant wings, half animal, half human, looks like Pazuzu very much, looks like Mothman very much. Again, reptilians, they can fly and they are related to the sky, space, UFOs, but for some reason, everybody believes that they are living in underground caves, just like Pazuzu. And also Mothman, people believe that he was living in underground facilities too. And this is the classical devil, Satan, that we know from the religions. And for some reason, these four beings look like each other very much, as if reptilians in our society first became Pazuzu. People believed that it was a god because it has paranormal powers and everything. Then it became the devil with the official religions, and in our time, we know it as Mothman. So there is a strange resemblance between all of them. Ancient history's demons, I guess they are the reptilians of the present day. They have shape-shifting ability and they can control the human mind, soul, and body. Mind control and telepathy is in their nature. So that's why many abductees and contactees, they say that I was under the effects of the being, he was controlling me, everything. In the past, this phenomenon was called demonic possession. Reptilians, as we will see today, are very much involved with paranormal, occult, and magical practices for some reason. They are playing with the tools of the dark forces. Human-reptilian interaction, it is not new. It was often reported, especially in medieval times. Reptilian close encounters are not new. They were in every age and culture. But they became officially Satan, devil in religions. If we accept the possibility of reptilian ETs, we may attribute to them advanced technological abilities as well. Especially in Dark Ages, anything new or advanced was seen as the work of Satan, because in the Dark Ages, what they called Satan or devil was a reptilian. And if it was bringing a technological tool, that's why it was seen as a tool of the Satan. Philosopher, occultist, and alchemist Roger Bacon, he had an encounter with a Satan. They called it Satan, devil, and he described it as this. It is a typical reptilian. Also, this being gave Roger Bacon the first principles of the first photographic camera. And of course, it was considered as the tool of the devil. In many ancient art, you can see that Satan is described as a kind of Pazuzu or reptilian being with the huge wings and animal-like body. And this is another picture, which is from 15th century. It is St. Patrick, and he was visited by a demon, but when you look at the demon, what you see is a reptilian being. Now, for some reason, reptilian extraterrestrials, in fact, we really don't know if they're extraterrestrials. Maybe they are coming from another dimension, but it is obvious that they are coming from outside of this world. They were always very active and especially on my land, especially in Turkey. Hittite Empire, Hittite Kingdom is one of the oldest official empires on Turkish land. Hittites were under the complete control of their gods. Hittites had 85 gods and goddesses. These beings, they were coming from the sky and they were coming from the underground. This one is their most important god, sky god Teshub. It was related with water, weather, rain, wind. So this being, very humanoid, normal human looking, had the ability of controlling the atmospheric cases. Yes, Hittites were the first political organization on Turkish land with their army and everything, but they were controlled, their life was controlled by multiple gods. Each god was responsible for a different task. And we can see that there were two groups of gods. Nordic sky gods, just like this one, they were in human form and they were coming from the sky. The other group of gods, dragon, reptilian gods, they were coming from the underground world. When they came, they said to the humans, "We are gods. You are going to worship us." And they said, "Okay, if you are gods, you have technology, you can fly in machines, and you have magical power, paranormal power. Okay, let's worship you, but how?" So there wasn't a religion, in fact. There wasn't a philosophy. There wasn't a spiritual teaching. God said, "You have to sacrifice animals to us in order to worship us." And for some reason, they needed animal blood. So what were they doing with animal blood? Were they vampires? Were they drinking it? Or were they using the animal blood in some genetical experiments? Just like today's cattle mutilations. In cattle mutilations, they take all the blood from the animal. Also, humans had to worship gods, donating them, giving them food, wine, and gold. So it means that these beings were not gods, they were not spiritual beings. They were humans, or maybe biologically, they were very close to human because they were able to eat anything, they were able to drink. In fact, as we will see in a minute, they were getting married with human women and they were having hybrid children from them. But what for the gods wanted gold? In Turkey, still today we have lots of gold mines, especially in this area where they came. So what were they doing, gods, with the gold? Probably they were using the gold in their technology, with their technology, maybe for the flying saucers, who knows? Also, Hittite gods were practicing white and black magic, and they were teaching humans how to do spells, how to practice black magic and white magic. They were using real snakes in the occult practices. Everything that we know about occult and magical practices, including satanic rituals, started in Hittite civilization under the influence of ET gods. And they showed their gods as hybrid beings, half human, half bird with huge wings. And this was the symbol of the gods. We know this symbol from the other civilizations. In the center, it is the sun or maybe something else with wings. Now, the beings from the sky and from the underground performed their own cover-up by using the identity of gods. They weren't gods, but whatever they were, they never wanted to reveal their real identity. In fact, they came with their own cover-up. They started to cover up, hiding their real identity behind the mask of the gods. So I can see that cover-up didn't start after Roswell 1947. It started thousands of years ago with the gods who came from somewhere. Worship was a very easy way to control humans and enslave them, so they were using the religion, the worship, as a mind control tool. Again, mind control didn't start in 20th century, it started a long time ago. Fake gods controlled the human race for thousands of years. But there is one thing. These Hittite gods were very much interested in the ruler society, the kings. They were not interested in the regular people because they were giving instructions to kings, to rulers, to the elite society, how to make laws, how to govern the country, how to set up an army and everything. Now, as you know, conspiracy theorists say that extraterrestrials are very much interested in the presidents, rulers, and kings. Maybe this has been happening in the last thousands of years. Now, this wall relief is from Turkey. It shows a battle between two groups of gods. Yes, they were two groups of gods, Nordics and Reptilians, but they had a battle, so they didn't like each other very much. Sky god Teshup and dragon Ilyanka, the other god. Yes, now, what you see in front is the sky god Teshup. And he looks very human, and he wears a kind of uniform. He even has very modern-looking boots and a belt, military uniform. The other being behind him is his son. He is human-looking too. But the dragon god, reptilian god, is depicted as a huge giant snake. So what happened? There was a battle, there was a fight between two gods. In the first part of the battle, dragon god won. The other one was defeated. And the dragon god took the eyes and the heart of the Nordic god. But he was a god, and even though he lost his heart and his eyes, he survived. He didn't die. Probably, eyes and heart, of course, were not the biological eyes and heart. It was something very important for them to be able to function on this dimension on Earth. So, Teshub was a god, but although he had his god's characteristics, he went to an oracle to get advice. What to do to win the battle. And the oracle advised him to get married to a human woman and to have a child from him. And he said, but you must wait until your child comes to marriage age. So what is the marriage age? It is the teenager years, okay? So I think they wanted to see how will be the hybrid race in the second generation when he gets to the teenager years. They were waiting for him to see if he will be able to have his own children. So, God Teshub found a human wife, they got married, and they had a son. Here is the son, a hybrid son. They came back to the battlefield again, but this time something unexpected happened. The hybrid son fell in love with the dragon god's daughter, and they got married. Nordics were very unhappy about this situation, and the Nordic god killed his own son. Probably Nordics eliminated the new hybrid race, and he also killed the reptilian god. So, I think the fight between two groups of gods was not a physical fight. It wasn't a physical battle. Maybe it was a genetic experiment. Maybe they were here on Earth in order to do a genetic experiment with humans. But they were coming from two different fields or two different groups. So the first part of the battle was not successful. That's why he had to get married to a human woman. And, okay, he had the hybrid son. But the hybrid son, maybe it wasn't only one, maybe many Nordic visitors had many hybrid childs from the human woman. And that new hybrid race mixed with the reptilian race. They didn't like this. And hybrid race was against the Nordics to his father, and they took the side of the reptilians for some reason. Teshub killed his own son. Well, maybe Nordics eliminated all the new young hybrid race, and it says reptilians, but it seems that they didn't kill all of them. Also, the authentic name of Hittites was Nesili, which resembles Nephilim. Let's remember what Old Testament says about the Nephilim. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of men and had children with them. From Hittites, our culture got many different things. This is the double-headed Hittite eagle. And it came to our society as a very important Masonic symbol. Also, later and before, many other European kingdoms used the double-headed Hittite eagle. Hittites had a symbolic language. They were symbolizing everything. Now, the round shape, circular shape object was their symbol for the gods. They showed the gods as an egg-shaped object divided in the middle. Why? Why they showed the gods coming from the sky as an egg-shaped object? Maybe I can offer you a possible explanation. This case is from Socorro, New Mexico, 1964. And the object was a perfect shaped, egg-shaped object. Maybe ancient Hittites saw their gods, which they were extraterrestrial visitors were coming in the egg-shaped objects. This is another Hittite wall relief from Turkey. What you see, the person who wears the high hat and the other one, two humans, are kings. They are humans. We don't know how much humans they are, but maybe they are hybrids, but they are humans. The other small being, up, it is a sky god. Now we are going to take a closer look to the sky god. Another uniform, a pair of boots, a belt. And if this is his hat, a very big hat with very giant big eyes. But maybe it is a helmet and he has a visor. Now let's compare this very ancient Hittite god with modern pictures. The drawing that you see on the right or on the left, it belongs to a Turkish contactee. His contact with extraterrestrials started in 1948, in fact, just after the Roswell in Turkey, and he was in contact with the same beings until he died in late 1990s. He described them as hairless beings with uniforms and with special devices on their belt. This happened in 1948. And the other picture is a toy. It is made based on the contactees and abductees descriptions. So when we look at three of them, they have an incredible resemblance between each other. Probably my ancient Hittite gods saw the same extraterrestrial visitors long before we were aware of them, but as they didn't have a concept of intergalactic visitors, they believed that they were gods. This is, I'm not going to go into details because this is a very long story. Another civilization from Turkey, after the Hittites, Urartu, and they showed their gods in this way with giant wings. And Urartu, the name of the civilization, means human makers or life givers. And let's take a look. The being, the sky god, is coming from a circular object, a circle. It was the Stargate. It wasn't there just as a decorative object. Where Hittite and Urartu civilization existed, which was almost every part of Turkey, but they were very much linked to underground cities of Turkey. In this area, where you see the dark circle, we have the amazing, mysterious underground cities. Nobody knows who built them, nobody knows who made them. They are dated to 6,000 years old. And they have 27 floors under the ground. Only 6 to 7 of them are open to public visit. They are museums today. As you can see, they are linked to each other with galleries, with steps and everything. And it is a huge world. It is a huge underground world with houses, with rooms, with halls. This area always was a very active place with UFO sightings. Especially in 1980s, we had an incredible UFO flap in the area. And as always, Turkish press was very open-minded and supportive to the cases. It was on Turkish newspapers all the time, and it says, flying saucers landed in Nida Aksaray, in that area, Cappadocia area, and they landed. This gentleman was a reporter from the area, and he was reporting the cases day by day. In one of the cases from January 1st, 1982, he says, my relatives and I were in the village of Aksaray in the region. At 11:40 p.m., we started to observe multiple UFOs in the night sky. First, we saw only 3 of them. Later, the number of the UFOs started to increase, such as 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. And we counted them until 160. This mass sighting was active until 1:30 a.m. This was only one of the cases. And this press cutting says, mysterious object was seen 4 times in 15 days. This is one of the most important newspapers of Turkey. It is a mainstream newspaper, and UFO-related news was always on the front page. The same journalist reports another case, January 9th. On the night of the January 9th, I saw the object at 7 p.m. There were 6 other witnesses with me from the village. We first observed it using our binoculars. Later, we decided to get closer to the hill where the object was landed. From the location where we were standing, its diameter seemed around 1 meter. It was oval-shaped. The top of the object was just like a turtle shell. Blue, red, and green lights were coming from the turtle shell-looking surface. We stayed there until 7:30 p.m. Meanwhile, object's color changed into blue from white to red, and it took off with a very high speed and disappeared into the sky. Another case from the same journalist, I and a group of local people from the village started to observe the object in the sky. We counted their number around 14. We started to turn on and off our flashlights at the same time. UFOs started to turn on and off their lights too. There was a communication. They were getting closer to us. They were oval-shaped. Their sizes were varying from an egg to a watermelon. They had white light, but their colors were changing. So, in this picture, one of the residents of the village is trying to show how was looking the object. Another case, another report from a cab driver. In the night of the sighting, Ertuğrul Demirci, the cab driver, was traveling from Nevşehir to Aksaray in his car. Suddenly, he noticed a very bright source of light at the right side of the road. First, he thought that it could be a cab, but soon he saw that the thing was a huge egg-shaped object. He stopped his car and turned off the lights. At the same moment, the lights of the egg-shaped object went off too. Demirci turned on the lights of his car, the object turned on its lights, and it started to take off slowly. While it was rising into the sky, the lights got stronger. It grew so bright that the witness had to close his eyes. When he opened his eyes, the egg-shaped object was flying with an incredible speed into the sky. So during this time, there were many landing cases. And this picture was taken on March 8, 1982. The day after a UFO landing, the local people was searching the area and they were marking where the UFO landed. Now, this was happening on the surface, but downstairs there is a hidden underground world. We don't know who made these underground cities. We don't know why they made them, and we don't know what kind of a technology they used. But it is a huge city. It is another world under the ground, which is linked, each room, each floor, to the other one. And it is open to public visit. It is a museum today. I was there many years ago. Now, according to some reports, visitors had encounters with 2 types of beings in underground cities. In one case from 1960s, archaeologists reported that they had a close encounter with a group of tall white beings. In another case from 1993, the witness observed a hooded, red-eyed being in a very deep level of the city. Now, underground cities are in the borders of where Hittite civilization existed. Some investigators believe that Hittites were related to the construction of the underground cities. Maybe Hittites, maybe they are gods. But much later, the first Christians in Turkey, they were hiding in these underground cities when they were trying to escape from the Roman soldiers, from the pagans. Yes, they are perfectly made. Obviously, an intelligence made them, and they had the technology to carve all these rooms and stairs under the ground. And it's huge. The two major underground cities in Turkey, they are located in Cappadocia, where you had where you saw the map. But in fact, the total number of the underground cities all over the Turkey is around 100. And the big round circular shape of stone is a door. So it was designed in a way that it was possible to open and close it only from inside. Now, in Turkey, we have another belief. For thousands of years, people consider the mountains as sacred, holy. And since Hittites, since Urartu, and still today, they make doors on the surface of the mountain. It is a perfectly made, real door, but you cannot open it, even though if you open it, there is nothing, it is flat. They believe that gods come from inside of the mountains. That's why they keep making these doors on the mountain surfaces in order to mark where the gods will come. There can be two explanations. If there was an underground civilization in Turkey, obviously when they want to come on surface, they were using the cave openings. So the race memory, DNA memory, still remembers the gods, the beings coming outside from the mountains. The other possible explanation can be related with the UFOs. A UFO, classical type of UFO, looks like a mountain. Yes, it lands and a door opens on the surface. So I think that ancient people were trying to relate gods with a huge mountain-looking object, which was a door was opening on the surface. So today, when you travel in the rural area of Turkey, you can still see them, but nobody touches them because they are holy. Yes, in Turkey also, another mythological beliefs, we believe that there is an underground snake kingdom, a reptilian kingdom in the underground cities of Turkey. And their queen is a woman, half human, half snake. It's called Shahmaran. And she controls all other reptilians. And if any human finds this underground world, cannot go back to the surface. One of the other beliefs related to underground world and reptilians in Turkey is coming from Christian religion. As you know, Saint George was known as the person, as the saint, who defeated the dragon. And Saint George was born in Turkey, in Cappadocia region, where we have the underground cities. Probably what he defeated was not only one dragon. Probably he was dealing a possible reptilian race. Not only in Christian religion, also in Islamic religion, we had the belief of the underground world with demons. This picture shows the demonic beings who live in the underground world, and a holy person is fighting against them. And when you look at the demonic beings, they have half human, half animal looking, just like some of the reptilians who are described with horns. Now, I said that Hittite gods didn't bring any official religion to Turkey. There wasn't a philosophy, there wasn't a spiritual teaching. But with the existence of these beings who had reptilian aspects, a cult, a belief, a tradition started in Turkey. Serpent race, reptilians, founded the Brotherhood of Snake in Turkey. And their rules were based on the occult practices. Also, Helena Blavatsky, one of the most important esoteric philosophers of the world, he was born in Russia, but he was looking for the link between Anunnaki and serpent race. And he was looking for Agartha, the underground world. She always believed that underground cities in Turkey were linked to Agartha, and they were founded by reptilians. Helena Blavatsky came to Turkey, did a research about reptilian race, and she went to New York City. She ended up in New York City, and she opened the Theosophical Center there. It is still there. Another important philosopher, another important spiritual teacher, George Gurdjieff, he was Russian too. He was looking for the same serpent race. He came to Turkey, he did his investigation in Turkey about reptilian race, underground cities, and Anunnaki, and for some reason, he ended up in New York City as well. Yes, so what is a snake cult? Snake cult is not something new. We are aware of snake cult. Whenever there is a snake cult related to reptilians, in fact, snake cult is coming from the reptilians, there are also human and animal sacrifices. Anything related with reptilian race was considered as evil and satanic. Some occult practices and black magic rituals came from reptilian extraterrestrial gods, and later it was linked with Satan. Black snake cult grew dominant, and it survived up today in the region. Now the cult is known as Devil's Cult or Yazidis. Yes, still in Turkey today there is a cult. They are called Yazidis, and they say that they believe in Satan, which they represented as a black snake. And this is their temple. In front of the temple, you see the black snake. And they say that their religion is the oldest one, and it was founded by the elders. Who are the elders? When you go to very, very past, you find the reptilian race. And their religion is based on the devil Satan worshipping. They worship the fallen angel and represented the devil as a black snake. For them, black snake is sacred. Their holy book is called the Black Book. Turkish city Urfa, where I showed you at the beginning of the presentation, Harran, was their cult center, where Pazuzu cult was. In modern Turkish society, snake cult still exists, even though it is not very open and is practiced under the blanket of the belief of the elders. Today, Yazidis are mainly located in the southeastern part of Turkey, in northern Iraq, Syria, Georgia, and Armenia, and a lot of them, many of them, immigrated to Germany. So today, on Turkish land, there is still a cult, a religious belief from the reptilian extraterrestrials. Snake cult didn't stay only on the eastern part of Turkey. In time, it became very, very strong in all over Turkey, together with pagan, occult, esoteric practices, and we were then a part of Roman Empire. Pergamum, a Roman city on the western side of Turkey, became the center of some practices. Pergamum is a very beautiful city. It is a very touristic center today. And in the city, there was a health center. It was a kind of early spa. It was founded in the name of Asclepius, which was the health god, and Asclepion. Here, the psychological and physical health problems were cured with music and water therapy, dream interpretations, detox, herbal medicine, hot and cold water pools, meditation, and hypnosis. The symbol of the center was two snakes, as you can see. So snake symbolism, together with the teaching and with practices, became a very important faith on Turkish land. Health and medicine god Asclepius, we know him with his staff with a one snake wrapped. Caduceus. There are two kinds of caduceus. In fact, the other one, double snake, belongs to another god. But for some reason, both of them are used as a symbol for the health and medicine. God Asclepius was known as the serpent god. He was famous as the god who can revive the dead. He was the serpent god. That's why serpent snake was the symbol of the Asclepion as well as the symbol of health and medicine. The real serpents used to be a part of the healing rituals in this very special therapy center in Pergamum. Yes, they were using the real snakes in order to cure people in Roman times. But these pictures from Turkey was taken this summer. In some parts of Turkey, they still use the real snakes in health problems. So, wherever there is a health problem on the head or on the chest, abdomen, they put the snake and they believe that as the snakes has very strong paranormal abilities, they can cure, they can fix the health problem. Yes, when we were a part of Roman Empire, pagan religion was dominant before the first Christians started. But first Christians didn't like all these things were happening in Pergamum. And for them, Pergamum was the headquarters of the devil. So it says, these are the words of him who has the sharp, double-edged sword. I know where you live, where Satan has his throne. So they believed that Satan has his throne in Pergamum. And once again, you see the double serpent. Before Christian religion was official religion, in Turkey, snake cult and symbolism was everywhere. It was highly respected and used in a very positive way, such as health and healing. It was used as a protective talisman on the buildings, and it was on the Roman coins. This is another archaeological piece from Pergamum, Turkey, and you see the snake. This snake column is from Istanbul, Turkey. It was everywhere. But again, although for pagans, snake, reptilian symbolism was something completely sacred, positive, later for the religion, snake was the Satan, was the liar being. Yes, this symbol was everywhere on the temples, houses, and government buildings. In fact, centuries passed, but in our society, not only in Turkey, in many other countries, we still keep using this symbol as a health symbol. The same snake symbolism is everywhere. You see this on the ambulances, health, medicine-related corporations. It is everywhere. This caduceus belongs to Another god, Mercury, Hermes, but it is still everywhere. And we know it from other civilizations. Also, it is the DNA helix. Yes, many corporations in health and security are using the reptilian ET's symbolism for some reason. So, this symbolism moved to Europe, and in 18th century it came to United States. In 18th century, reptile, snake, was the symbol of the American independence and American unity. So, the first picture is an old newspaper cutting from 1774, and snake is the symbol of American unity. The other one is from a $20 bill. Again, you see the same snake symbolism. I'm sure many people are familiar with these symbols. So, the reptilian culture started in Mesopotamia. It got stronger on my country, moved to United States. Now, two pictures from two different times, two different continents. The first one is from Pergamum, Turkey, and the other one is from New York City. Very beautiful building. It is located on 23rd Street. I can give you the address. You can go and look at. It is the same symbolism. These archaeological pieces, architectural pieces, were used as protective symbols in the ancient times because they believed that snake protects. But at the same time, as according to monotheistic religions, it is a liar. This is another building from New York City. You can see the same symbols. Another building from New York City, the same symbols. And Grand Central Terminal in New York City, Hermes or Mercury is the god of travel and commerce, and look at his symbol. It is double snake wrapped in a staff. It is caduceus, this. This symbol, double snake, caduceus, is located on one of the entrances of Grand Central Terminal in New York City. This. So every day, thousands of people are coming and going using the Grand Central Terminal, and whoever built the building, whoever built the place, wanted to use reptilian snake symbolism in order to protect the passengers. This is a very beautiful ancient building from New York City, and you can see the same symbolism. This is the Dakota building where John Lennon lived and he was killed. Also, the famous movie Rosemary's Baby was made in this building. It was about a satanic cult in New York City. Roman Polanski was the director. So, reptiles, dragons, snakes, or hybrid beings are coming from the same source. They are coming from what we call reptilian extraterrestrials. Again, we don't know if they are extraterrestrial, but whatever they are, their culture, their symbolism didn't die. It is still here. You can see. These are other New York City buildings. For some reason, people wanted to decorate their buildings with dragons, with hybrid beings, with symbols which come from that reptilian race. So, are they talismans? Did they want to mark their place? This is new. This is not very old. The place is New York City again, and it is very close to Madison Square Garden. It's a huge commercial advertisement. For some reason, for the soft drink company, they wanted to use the reptilian symbolism again. Yes, life water, as if the life is coming from this race. And this soft drink company wanted to use the reptilian dragon reptile symbolism, especially for this product for some reason. And in New York, it was huge. I don't know how it was in the other parts of the country. So, another hybrid being with wings, snake, and dragon. Lots of dragons in many parts of New York City. Another one, and another one. Now, talking about the dragons, we have to go back to the original mythological dragon symbolism. The first dragon, it was a woman, in fact. It was a goddess, Tiamat, and she was the first reptilian deity. According to legend, she came from the ocean and she lived underground, just like the picture that I showed you before, the half-human, half-dragon being, which we believe that it lives in the underground cities of Turkey. In time, dragon goddess became Melusina. Melusina is not a mermaid. Melusina is another hybrid being which has 2 snake legs. Yes, this is Melusina, 2 snake legs. And we are very familiar with Melusina as well. In our time, she became the logo of Starbucks Cafe. So, the Starbucks logo's origin is goddess Tiamat, reptilian goddess. This Melusina is from Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. It is the reptilian goddess. In time, snake reptilian goddess changed its shape a little bit. She lost her reptilian legs, but she was still holding the snakes in her hands. And then in Hellenistic and in Roman civilizations, goddess was always depicted with snakes. Always, in different cultures, it was shown with snakes. So when it became the Virgin Mary, she was still depicted with snakes, look at under her feet. Nagas, Indian, they were half human, half snake. And again, in Hittite goddess, she was carrying the snake on her head. Goddess worshipping was very important in Turkey, and it goes back to 7000 BC. Mother Earth worshipping, goddess worshipping is coming from the reptilian goddess. Goddess Ishtar, goddess had characteristics of a mother, protector, virgin, warrior, destroyer, hunter, healer, and sorcerer, and she was giving light to the world with a torch in her hand. Sumer goddess Inanna, she is symbolized with moon, Venus, and serpent. She was called serpent goddess because the origin is Tiamat. These are the different depictions of the same goddess, mother-son worshipping. And goddess had different names in different civilizations, such as Inanna, Ishtar, Isis, Kubaba, Kibele, Diana, Semiramis, Astarte, Libertas, Venus, Mary. In Turkey, another ancient Roman city, Ephesus, which is located on the western coast, became a center of the goddess cult. In Ephesus, which Ephesus later became one of the 7 churches in Christian religion, and the cult was based on the goddess worshipping. Now, this is the symbol of pagan goddess worshipping. In front of her body, what you see, they belong to both, to the animal, because also at the same time, there was a Baal cult of Baal in Turkey, like Taurus. Ancient Ephesus was founded in 10th century BC on Turkish western coast. It was an important trading port city with 250,000 inhabitants, which means it is very crowded. It may be considered as an ancient version of today's New York City in many ways. We will see why. Ephesus was a very cosmopolitan center where many different cultures left their traces, just like New York City. It was constantly being visited by people who traveled from the land and from the port, who were bringing their own culture, language, traditions, and beliefs, just like New York City. Ephesus was a pagan city, and it was the center of Diana Artemis cult, which was famous all over the world. From the other parts of the world, believers were coming to Ephesus in order to worship the goddess. White and black magic were the ways to worship the goddess Artemis, which is very strange. For some reason, occult practices and esoteric practices were the religion. It was the religion. Ancient magic learned from the elders was constantly in use. Who were the elders? Let's go to back. Goddess worshipping was based on the sacrifices of animals and humans, and blood rituals, including gladiator combats. So, in order to worship the goddess, you have to kill a human or an animal. Today we know that sacrificing an animal or a human is the first rule of the satanic rituals. So this was coming from the reptilian extraterrestrials. In those days, just before the Christian religion became official, Ephesus was seen as the headquarters of devil worshipping by Christians, as magical practices and contact with demons was a very common part of the daily life. In Ephesus, demonic obsession was a constant problem. People was playing with the dark forces. They were practicing black magic, dark magic, but at the same time, demons or some beings, some intelligent beings who were able to mind control humans were possessing them. Now let's talk about St. Paul. He was the second most important person in Christian religion, because with his teachings and with his travels, he spread out the Christian religion first in Turkey, then in Europe. He was born in Turkey, in a town called Tarsus. Later, he became St. Paul. Originally, his name was Saul, and at the beginning, he was pagan too. But later, he decided to be a Christian. There are two interesting cases about him. The first one, when he was still a pagan, one day, he had an encounter with a bright object. The object was following him, and a voice spoke from the object. After that encounter, he decided to be a Christian. So maybe this was a close encounter with an UFO. Later, when he became Christian, a child-look angel took him to the 10 different dimensions of the sky. So I wonder if that small-looking angel was an extraterrestrial. When St. Paul arrived at Ephesus, demonic possession was a very common problem. He was healing the demonic possessions. Demons needed to use a physical human body to be able to act in the human world. Demons were also able to speak from the mouth of the person they were possessing. According to the Bible, demons knew about Jesus and Paul, and they were intelligent beings who were able to communicate with humans. To me, demons were shapeshifters, interdimensional beings. Sometimes they showed them as reptilians. Demonic possession is still going on in our time by reptilians. They still possess human mind, soul, and body. Today's mind control tools are money, fear, TV shows, and advertisements, just like we saw in New York City, the big billboard, movies, music, press, and consumer products. But most of the possessed victims are not aware of this situation. So why is New York City is a modern version of ancient Ephesus? Why New York City is the reincarnation of ancient Ephesus? In Ephesus, Temple of Artemis was considered as an architectural masterpiece. But in time, Temple of Artemis became a bank. Rich people, rulers, and especially merchants were keeping their money in the temple. Faith and material investment were developing together. The first use of money was related to Artemis worshipping in order to support the temple. Artemis temple, it is not there anymore. But this is the plan. For some reason, Stock Exchange Building in New York City copied the Artemis temple 100%. I mentioned to you about the bull cult in Turkey, and Wall Street bull is another symbol of New York City. Roman goddess, pagan goddess, Liberty or Libertas. She was the goddess of freedom. 2 coins. The one black and white is a Roman coin. It shows the Libertas. And the other one, Lady Liberty, it is a $1 coin. So, Goddess Libertas and the Lady Liberty are the same. Goddess Libertas was a Roman goddess, and she is reincarnated as Lady Liberty in New York City today. And goddess, as we see with Tiamat, comes from the water. Lady Liberty is situated on the water. So, goddess symbolism is still going on, and that's why, and for many other reasons, New York City is a modern version of Ephesus. Aleister Crowley, he was one of the most prominent names of the occult practices and black magic. He was in New York City in some part of his time. In 1918, he practiced a ritual. He was trying to communicate with a stargate, and he managed to communicate with a being which was called Lem. And he drew his picture, and when you look at it, it is the typical reptilian gray. In New York City, there are also pagan symbolism. Of course, Lady Liberty symbolizes the female aspect, and Empire State Building is the symbol of the male aspect. It is a phallic symbol. Okay, what is this? What do you think? What symbol is this? Crop circles. Soon, these crop circles will be the new selling of Empire State Building, because they are redecorating everything, and for some reason they are going to use this ceiling panel. It's a modern version of the crop ceilings, crop circles. Also, Empire State Building is the modern version of a ziggurat. When you look at the first 3 parts, it is a complete ziggurat. Ziggurats were pyramids, early pyramids, and they were built as the temples for gods. They were the houses of the gods. So, different pyramids from different cultures. In our time, we observed in different places flying pyramids. They were UFOs. Probably gods were coming in the flying pyramids. And this old seal shows a flying pyramid. Another pagan symbolism in New York City, World Financial Center, 2 buildings. One of them is male, the other one is female. The male one has the pyramid on top. The other one is the dome. It is female. Just like in Washington, D.C., dome symbolizes the female aspect, and the obelisk symbolizes the male aspect. Also, pyramid and snake symbolism were always together. This picture was drawn by an abductee. That person drew what he saw on the board. Another abductee saw a reptilian being having a uniform with a snake eye and a pyramid triangle. Yes, eye, pyramid, snakes were always depicted together. And this, it's a very high-end fashion garment. You can see all-seeing eye inside of the pyramid with a snake. Who do you think that was wearing this jacket? Who can be? Let's see. She was wearing it. Yes, we don't know if she was aware the symbolism of the jacket, or it was only a fashion accident. So thank you very much for today. Have a nice, lovely evening, and thanks for coming. Thank you. Bye-bye.